against the backdrop of a grim catastrophe. So it's not denying the catastrophe, it's not evading and overlooking the catastrophe, but is working through it and creating bonds of trust and ties of solidarity to hold us together so that we can soothe each other with a sweetness and a tenderness, but a tough truth-telling and a tough justice-seeking. That's what ABC for 44 years have been about. And it's true, my dear brother Edward Zaid and I, my God, when you mention his name, I just have to pause. I take a bullet for him and he take a bullet for me. And Palestinian teaching way back in the late 70s and 80s when Orientalism appeared in 78. Question of Palestine in 79, covering Islam in 1981. Ooh, what a freedom fighter he was, but he was a wave in a greater ocean of Arab-Palestinian resilience and resistance. That's what we're talking about. My dear brother McLemore, man, I send my deep love and respect for you, man. Your record is deep. The Lord is well deserved. This brother comes from a high school that produced a genius named Jimi Hendrix. And Quincy Jones. He's a vanilla brother who's been dipped in a chocolate art form that still allows him to find his voice and tell his truth. Because Irish spirit goes hand in hand with black spirit, Palestinian spirit, Arab spirit, Peruvian spirit, Haitian spirit, Jewish spirit. Immortal technique. We live 2 blocks from each other in Harlem, USA. But I'm here primarily to zero in on the fact that we have to acknowledge that we are living in a sick country. Martin Luther King Jr. died. 72% of Americans disapproved of him. 51% of black people disapproved of Martin when he died. What? He came out against what was going on in Vietnam, and he believed that a Vietnamese baby had the same value as an American baby, just like we believe that a precious Palestinian baby has exactly the same value as any baby in the world. Who decided to live in a country that denies genocide, that enables genocide, that denies apartheid, that enables apartheid, that denies ethnic cleansing and enables ethnic cleansing, that is spiritually sick and morally obscene, and if we don't say something, the rocks are going to shout out. And it's not primarily a political issue. It's not a matter of electoral strategy. It's not a matter of votes. It's about the precious humanity of a slice of our brothers and sisters who not just have their backs against the wall, but have been colonized and subjugated and dominated and demonized decade after decade after decade after decade. It's a moral issue. A spiritual issue with immense political consequences. There's been 70 empires since the emergence of the species in the great continent of Africa. The United States is number 68. The United States is an empire. Over 1,000 military units around the world, 130 special operations in over 100 countries. 62 cents for every $1 discretionary budget in Washington goes to the military. It's not just abroad, it's the militarization of the police at home that zero in on black young folk and brown young folk and poor young folk. We're talking about a global thing. And that's why solidarity is so fundamental. And when you look at the history of all of the Empire, the Mongolian and the Roman and the British and the Persian and the Portuguese. And my dear brother, I'm sitting next to my brother from Spain. Spain once had an empire, yeah. And what happened to the Spanish Empire? Failed. We didn't need the pen of Edwin Gibbon to tell us about the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. We didn't need the text of Oswald Spengler to talk about the decline of the West. We didn't need the history telling of Hornby to say every empire falls and the distinctive features when they fall is military outreach, massive corruption of elites of whatever political parties still have access to wealth and power, a feeling of impotence and powerless among the citizens so that they're more likely to turn on each other and scapegoat the most vulnerable rather than confront the most powerful in the name of solidarity. Every empire we know will fall. The American empire is decaying. It is declining. Organized greed and weaponized hatred and routinized indifference to the vulnerable is pushing the empire off the cliff. And Gaza is not just a moral litmus test. It's the public face of the U.S. empire mediated with gangsters in Israel. That's what they are. And it's up to us to somehow remain our souls. Keep sharing our soothing sweetness, and then on the ground having solidarity by hitting the streets and go to jail and tell the truth and seek justice against the odds. Because history is unpredictable and incomplete and unfinished. And no matter how powerful any elite feel in the empire that they know is declining and decaying, there's always new possibilities. And I come to you as just a little small footnote of the great black people who for 400 years have been in the belly of the American imperial beast. 244 years of slavery, the average slave dying at 27 years old, and another 100 years of neo-slavery, of American terrorism, of Jim and Jane Crow for every 2.5 days for 50 years. Some black body swaying from the southern breeze that Billie Holiday sang about, and the Jewish brother Maripol writing those powerful lyrics of Strange Fruit. Today we got Jim Crow Jr. still operating. 40% of black children and brown children living in poverty, the richest nation in the history of the world. Police brutalization, police murder taking place. And they think that all you can do is just put black faces in high places to hide and conceal that kind of unbelievable social living. And that's the dominant response of our elites of both corrupt parties with this rotten system. To keep those faces changing colors. Put some women up there. Put the gay brother and the lesbian sister up there. We stand against white supremacy. We stand against male supremacy. We stand against mistreating our gay brothers and lesbian sisters. We stand against dehumanizing our trans. But to put those faces up there, and you still got the same rotten system. You still got the same corrupt hierarchy operating. That's what it is. Oh, that's a tough one now. Because for so long, black people have been so chronically hated, day in and day out, month after month, year after year for 400 years. And yet somehow at our best, we've been able to muster the courage to love. Something that Hamlet never learned. Yvonne and the brothers Karamazov, by Dostoevsky, never learned. They all suffer from the incapacity to love. How did these black people keep loving truth? And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. How did they keep loving beauty? So that in the face of trauma, they ought to be wounded healers more often than just wounded hurters. That's a moral and spiritual choice. It has nothing to do with your skin pigmentation. It has to do with one's humanity. What kind of human being do you choose to be in the short move from your mama's womb until you're not here that long? That's what is at stake in 2024 with God. Far beyond election, far beyond politics. The question is whether enough of us will shatter the indifference. The great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Hessel used to say, indifference to evil is more insidious than evil itself. How do you shatter indifference? How do you shatter callousness? We turn to schools here in September, and I'm just waiting to hear a university president give a speech, not about protecting those students who feel offended when you engage in a profound critique of Zionism. When you gonna give a speech about the 12 universities that have been demolished? I thought you were committed to education. I thought you were committed to a course of wisdom. I thought you were committed to Socratic dialogue. You can't say a mumbling word when the laboratories are shattered, when the classrooms are crushed. And you're so concerned about your students on campus. I was blessed to be the faculty advisor to students for Palestine at Harvard University. It was a blessing. I was also faculty advisor to Cornel, which is the Black Gospel group. I was grooving on Tuesday night, and I was engaged politically on Thursday. And oftentimes it was difficult to us to even find a room on campus. Where was the concern about the students who were being marginalized? Them! Of course we want every student to be respected. Of course we want every student to feel as if they can raise their voice. But the level of hypocrisy tied to the mendacity that hides the criminality, the lies that conceal the crimes have become so overwhelming, as Malcolm used to say, sooner or later the chicken's gonna come home to roost. You're gonna reap what you sow. Sooner or later everybody can see what has been going on. And all you got to do is engage in a brief thought experiment and say, what would be the response of the U.S. government? What would be the response of corporate media? What would be the response of our churches and our synagogues if the 20,000 precious Palestinian children, or 45 or 50 Palestinian brothers and sisters who have been murdered by the idea? What if they were white? What if Arabs had killed 20,000 European babies? What do you think the U.S. government response would be? The U.S. government immediately would support the white version of Hamas and view them as freedom fighters. That's how sick the society is. If there were Israeli babies being killed, 20,000 by Palestinians, what do you think the U.S. government response would be?
It wouldn't exist.
Qualitatively different. We're here to say, we believe that a Palestinian life has exactly the same value as a Jewish Israeli life. We want to see the same moral outrage. We want to see the same righteous indignation. We want to see the same policy. They would have pulled the plug and defunded the Israeli killing machine a long time ago. They would have talked about ending the occupation. They would even be talking far beyond the two-state solution. We know a two-state solution means some truncated, subordinated Palestinian state. We want a context in which Palestinians can live lives of dignity, equality, safety, and security. And we want the same for our Jewish brothers and sisters too. Let's be honest about it. But what happens when you try to be that morally consistent? What happens when you try to be someone who breaks the back of the conformity and the complacency? And let's be very honest about it. One of the fundamental symptoms of spiritual decay is what? Massive cowardliness. People are just scared. They're afraid. Martin Luther King Jr. used to say, I'd rather be dead than afraid. Cornel the black sister who the godmother of human rights in California. She was a black sister who gave John Brown. John Brown was a vanilla brother, just like Macklemore. The vanilla brother who loves oppressed people. She wrote a check for $500,000 to John Brown in 1856. She married Robert Brown. He dropped dead and she got his cash. Black sister. When he was executed, he had a note from her in his pocket. That's John Brown, who loved black people more than some black people love ourselves. She used to begin every talk. I'd rather be a corpse than a coward. Rather be a corpse than a coward. And what we're witnessing on the college campuses is nothing but a marvelous display of spiritual and moral militancy in the name of an indictment of a genocide that we ought to be acknowledging and ought to be a part of. And as my dear brother said, it ain't got nothing to do with anti-Jewish hatred. There's always going to be a voice here. Yes, there's going to be some voices. Why? Because we know anti-Jewish hatred is pervasive, just like anti-black, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, anti-gay. It's a human thing. But you look at the magnificent leadership of these young Palestinian brothers and sisters, my God. They're talking about a solidarity that has to do with nothing getting in the way of ensuring that Palestinian dignity and humanity is affirmed. That's the kind of determination we need. And let us be very honest about it. I come from a great black people, where every black person who mustered the courage to tell the truth about the vicious legacy of white supremacy ended up assassinated, incarcerated, rebuked, scorned, marginalized, and viciously attacked. So the repression is real. It's always been real. And it's simply a test of our love. And the only thing that breaks the back of fear is love. The only thing that breaks the back of cowardliness is a courage rooted in a deep and profound commitment to the people who are being subjugated. So yes, ABC, I salute you. I salute you. But I'll say this. But we have to have a solidarity that is mutual. When I go in black communities, oh, Brother West, you spend all that time with the Muslims and the Arabs and the Palestinians. We looking for their voices to say something about our mass incarceration. They're looking for our voices to say something about our poverty. We're looking for someone to say something about our dilapidated schools. Looking for someone to say something about our indecent housing. This is not quid pro quo. This is not transaction. This is solidarity.